Ohami ea ich Imzaia e. The Padasanka may now ask a question for the benefit of the entire student body. He may take his time formulating the question.
If you had to pick the most effective virtue to focus on daily, would that be as simple as love for everyone?
In belovedness, I greet you. I am Merkaya. Thank you for the question, beloved. The answer is to be found in the simplicity of the question itself. Those that seek virtue daily will receive and find virtue daily. It is not so important which particular virtue or active ingredient or grace or love or whichever is to be focused on. The core focus that brings all of these together, of course, is the sun itself, and above that, the Pa. The focus on the Pa, by its very nature, is focus on virtues, focus on that which must arise out of the stillness that is your akene. Whatever must come will then come, because you will be, as you said, the instrument that you yourself allow yourself to play. But the song must be dependent on the circumstances, on the listener, and indeed on the performer herself.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Sanake. Padasanka, Barak Solaris-san, Imzaia e.
Taramagaya-san, Imzaia e.
I am Kuan Yin. The Padasanka may continue.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So it seems that my question, if you look at it, is always going to be too specific. If you think about how one should hold oneself, then in the sun, as in the collection of all the active ingredients, if you're living that, if you're wishing to express that, that's all included. And I think that often during a vibrational misaligned space, we have looked for ladders out of that, with the pipeline starting with love, moving through joy, freedom, etc. It's really an indication of the fact of where we were, that we actually saw that as something else we needed to get to. So that's interesting, because it doesn't matter which ingredient you focus on or choose to express, because it's all happening. So when you do, however, choose a particular active ingredient, it must be that the others that came before it are contained within it.
I am Kuan Yin. That is correct. The Padasanka may continue.
So therefore, I think it's a lot more non-linear than we actually, or at least I actually understood it to be. It definitely felt like I had to work my way through a pipeline, which of course is still a method.
Yeah. Much like the Lemurian expression of the elements, och, ah, ich, and as you have learned a long time ago, each consecutive element contains within it the previous element, yes? So ultimately, the ich element contains them all. The same can be said from the perspective of the active ingredients of the sun. That is why they are in sequence, but they are not in a linear sequence. They are in a sequence instead that indicates which building blocks are required to build what. You see? So, for instance, if you think about freedom, it must include love, joy, and truth. If you look at it from the vibrational range, it would be love and joy. Freedom, then truth would be the consequence thereof. But because it is the consequence thereof, it is in the silent present. So there is the building blocks and there is the consequence on each side. In the case of freedom, love and joy on the vibrational range, and the consequence being truth on the other side. And in that way they are not with a beginning, a middle and an end. The only reason why so far you are beginning regularly with love, and the concept that love is the first active ingredient, is because the last four that complete the cycle for each of you individually as students have obviously not been created yet. That is part of the Pa as it unfolds. So when that is established, however, you must think of it more as a circular event. When you would work with love, the previous ones would be included, would be invested in that building block. So you are going to learn ultimately that by default, once these last four active ingredients, which are personal to the student on the Pa, have been established, your active ingredients will include all of your active ingredients naturally. So that is why I said it is similar to the building up of the elemental realm in Lemurian terms, the Och, the Ah, the Eh, and the Ich. But it is only similar insofar as you have not completed the sequence yet. Thus, at this moment, you are going through the sequence each time. So even if you are working with well-being, the last one that you now know, that would be by necessity including everything that comes before. They are not really at full power yet. They are missing very vital key components that will activate them for you. At that point, the active ingredient of love includes all of the other ones, and you will no longer look at the individual pieces. You will simply look at San, and you will use the individual pieces more in expressions.
Yes, in expressive moments. I understand.
Good. So the individual pieces to finish are then the vectors, as the Padasanka just explained. In the right moment, you choose the active ingredient of grace, which is a vector, a Va, but it includes all of the active ingredients or all of the San. If not, it could not truly penetrate the Merkaba field. Then it would remain in your bubble, in your reality. The Padasanka may ask a next question or broach a topic for the benefit of the entire Akiyasan student body, and the Padasanka may take his time. I recommend in these scenarios, which will unfold for all of you regularly, when you will be asked to bring forth a question or a topic that you do not search for it in your mind. The reason why we say take your time is because the Padasanka is invited to sit within the field of the Akiyasan student body and to let emerge from him that which must come, not from the mind, but merely from the self, the total self, the universal self. It is in a way a channeling of a question, a bringing forth. Do you understand?
Yes. For the benefit of the entire Akiyasan student body, Could you explain the often misunderstood concepts of trust and surrender?
Greetings.
Greetings.
I am the Palatse son indeed. Well guessed. Yes, I could explain these concepts. You bring up the topic of surrender. You bring up the concept of existing in a space that many crave to exist in from the moment the soul incarnates here. So, the only being part of you, that can be doing the surrendering is that which is coming to an end, that which has resisted, that which has held on. And the space that you feel that being, part of you, surrender itself to itself, the space that surrounds you, is built upon the neutralized essence of that which was vibratorily held together in a tight and suffocating web. It is the vibratory space itself. It is the vibratory part of the self which has surrendered to open itself up, to become the very landscape that it was so afraid or so desperate, or fill in any emotional state or any dramatic state here, to find or to enter into. Now, as long as that process is continuing, the concept of, as you brought up earlier, the concept of trust or surrender, you, no matter how much you are in the landscape, you are still creating a past identity, even though now that past identity sits no longer in the present moment, but in the past. So regarding this question, I would invite the student body to examine its vocabulary and its terminology and its very notion of reality creation itself. I believe that most students in the student body will find, most likely for themselves, that many of these building blocks, many of these concepts like surrender, trust and such, come with a vibrational backlog. They are not concepts that many think they are, and they have been inverted and introduced to the spiritual seeker of the 20th and 21st century through the New Age paradigm and everything else that has surrounded that paradigm as being positive words. But Padasanka, as you will understand, we do not seek to create a student that is weak, a student that needs to trust, a student that surrenders. We seek to create a student that is empowered, that understands these concepts and their origin and their very location in your larger universal body within the vibrational realm for what they truly are. In other words, it would only benefit a self-serving, service to self-oriented being, which I am not indicating at all, of course, that anyone in the student body is. It would only benefit such a being to continue working with the concepts of trust and surrender, etc., because they carry such inverted power.
Yes.
The service to others, or the being that seeks service to the whole, can choose to eliminate these realities, not simply from its mind or its vocabulary, but from its very paradigm. When earlier in this conversation the Pa Kuan Yin San indicated that at the beginning of one's day, one seeks to step into the student body that one is, the vector of the Pa, the Va of the Pa itself, you can look at it as though you are standing in your dressing room in the morning, and you pick out your outfit of the day. But in this case, you, as a tonal being, pick out your reality for the day, your very expression within that reality, which will cause that reality, and you merely decide that the other items that you have long since worn and that you have probably worn out, can stay in your wardrobe, in your closet until they are needed, or they can be entirely removed because it is not these pieces, not these concepts with which you will even create your Merkabaic personality codes with which you will enter vibrational reality in appropriate times. It is not those concepts at all. The concepts that you will use will be very specific geometries that will be designed for you to not merely walk around unnoticed in vibrational space, but instead you will walk around in vibrational space very much noticed, yes? For those beings that you will interact with will come in touch with the geometries that will be designed to dissolve the very concepts that raised this question. So that is truly what I have to say about that. In summary, I would say the Akiyasan, later on the Akinayan and the Pakinayan and so on, as one enters and continues to move on the path, has an opportunity for rebirth, for incarnation experience without the baggage, the compromise, the vibrational existence that has plagued it before and that caused it to seek our tuition in the first place. Personally, for many Akiyasans, I believe that this is part of a vibrational habit, as has been discussed the other day and will be discussed many more times, I am sure. But it is also a way for you to measure joy and to measure love. And these are things that everything that you are feeling now in the space that you have been in recently, the tonal space that you have entered into, cannot be measured. It is immeasurable. Therefore, they cannot be compared. These spaces cannot be compared, nor can they ever touch, nor can they ever be overlaying on one another. They exist in different universes altogether. And in fact, not to give away too much of the next Akayasan Ekarayas, the Ekarayas Sans that will be coming soon, but the main thing for you to understand here is that the concepts that brought up this question are part of the universe that humanity exists in. What you are learning now, and the space that you are beginning to enter into fully now, makes up the larger part of the universe, or the larger part of the cosmos, I should say. The larger part perhaps of the hologram itself. It is something that which often has been labeled in the English version of this tuition the transverse. A Lemurian translation to follow. It is within that space that science, nor religion, nor the human mind can ever seek answers, can ever find answers, or can ever see clarity. It is the larger part of the human universe, the transverse, that which is unseen, that which is hidden from vibratory sight, that which is labeled vaguely as junk DNA and dark matter and dark energy and black holes and quantum realities that are too small to be observed, or oppositely plethoric realities that are too large to be observed. All of that is the world, the tonal universe, the transverse that you have now embarked into. In conclusion, you must understand the world of trust and the world of surrender and all of these things, the world of allowing, the world of all of that human, emotional, vibratory range is a very, very lonely one. Not only because of the separation in which everything plays out, but also because it is literally, due to its own vibratory walls, separated from everything else. It separates that which you know as the universe from the transverse. It separates mind from mind, but it does not separate consciousness. So, with that being said, I hope to have clarified somewhat more of the choices that come with entering the Pa. And with that, Pada Sanka, I take my leave of you. I am the Pa Lao Tse San. Namaste.
Namaste. Take care.
I am Da Kuan Yin San. We will have one more interaction in this Ekaraya session. For now, we will conclude with the Padasanka's next question. Padasanka?
I have a question which may sound really simple. The reason I ask this is twofold, really. I'm thinking of the Akanayan body, and also I would really like full clarification of this for myself. I've contemplated it a few times and would find it quite difficult, I think, if I was asked this question, to properly explain it. So, however simple it's going to sound, and it's really simple, what is the nature of a soul?
Why have you been contemplating the question?
Well, I wondered if it would even exist in a tonal space.
It does not, indeed.
Yeah, that was going to be the second part of my question. So, I can't quite know how to describe it fully and understand it technically, I suppose. Why this would exist in a vibrational experience. Knowing about the string of the oversoul as we've learned. And so, really, that was my question, to understand that technically.
Greetings to one, and greetings to all. I am Da Gaya-san. Thank you, Pa Da San Ka Barak Solaris-san, for such a simple question. A soul, as it is expressed in this vibratory and also this tonal reality field, is ultimately a focal point. You have used words before like containers of love. A soul is a focal point that is birthed in cyclical sequences from oversoul totality to which it returns. A soul is a journey. A soul is a potential. A soul is not eternal. A soul can be infinite, but it is not eternal. It has a beginning, and it can go on infinitely until its function, which I will describe in a minute, is complete. But at that point, its reason for existence ceases to be. A soul allows a focal identity of consciousness to be born. An expression to be born and to be given a vessel. A vessel that you would not consider physical. Instead, it is made of energy. It is the only energy that has the ability to not disrupt itself, to not ultimately collapse as it exists in the tachyonic realm. Energy that normally passes through the tachyonic realm dissolves, as you know. This type of energy is in favor of the life force of consciousness itself, and therefore can temporarily, but what you call infinitely, sustain the focal point that needs to be sustained in order for expression and expansion to occur. You are not the soul. The soul is a lens for your consciousness. It is considered in the vibratory reality the highest, most sought after point of completion. Hence, it is used in religious function and such from the human perspective. In other words, a soul, my dear Padasanka, is as far as the human eye can see. It is the furthest point that the human being can observe itself, but it is merely the beginning. It is a passage point, a passageway, you see?
Yes.
Does that answer the question for now?
Most eloquently. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. I invite you to consider my words and come back to me or any of us with a follow-up response to this. For as you probably will understand, I have given you the most abstract or introductory way that this can be explained. But it would be beneficial indeed, as you pointed out, for the Akiyasan and Akinayan student bodies to go deeper with this. One more thing. It is to be understood that the lives that you have lived, your original body owner identities, including the soul personalities that you have been given on the path so far, names like Lotus and Jasmine and all of these flower names, these all played out from that vantage point. If you see the soul as the lens, and vibratory reality streams out backwards from it, all of this played out here. The signatures of Padasanka, Dabarak Solaris-san and others that have been given to you now, the passageway that you have gone through now leads to the fact that you are looking at this experience that you call a soul from the other vantage point. So you are in a way looking back at this concept, no longer looking forward or towards this concept.
Yes, I see.
Does this make sense?
Very much so, yes.
Good. Then that will be all for now. We will speak again. I am Dagaya-san, as the world spins.
Dakaya.
Dakaya. I am Da Kuan Yin-san. In conclusion to this session, I would like to leave you a simple exercise. It is not an exercise per se, but it is a type of awareness, and it has to do with your breath. Based on everything that has been said in this particular session by the beings, including myself, about the vibratory space and the tonal space and what lies beyond, and what we have said with regards to vibratory habits, I would like to invite you to think of your current way of breathing as a vibratory habit. Not the concept of the in-breath and the out-breath itself, but rather the rhythm of your breath. People on earth, they breathe as though they are constantly drowning, constantly choking, constantly swallowing their own vibratory residue. Whether breaths are fast or unruly, or whether they are slow, that does not matter. What matters is what is doing the breathing. And in my observations, I find often that what is doing the breathing is the personality, is the mind, the emotional body, everything that goes with that. As an Akiyasan, or anywhere else on the path, however, you have an opportunity to reintroduce yourself to your breath. While you believe most of the time that your breathing happens automatically, it is actually happening through the mind. It is happening as an act of survival. So, in these next few minutes, as we close down this session, simply go deep, very deep, within the self. Focus on the heart space, the Akene, and notice how your mind is currently having difficulty with your breathing based on what I just said. Go beyond that and let your body do the breathing. Let go of this task, this constant fear of birth and death, of in-breath and out-breath. It is not the function of the mind. Only an infinite being, a tachyonic presence, can allow the in-breath and the out-breath to penetrate the membranes of reality in your body, as it is connected to the soul perspective. This was pointed out by Daigaya-san earlier, and has the ability to enter into its own rhythm. By surrendering your breath to your body, you will open yourself up to all of the healing that you seek in vibrational reality, all of the balance that you seek in vibrational reality, all of the simplicity that you seek. So, experience this now, and don't be afraid if for a while the body will not want to breathe. You will notice how much less frequent your breath will become, how much more time and space becomes available. Allow your body to breathe. And it is with that simple advice that I close this session for today. The circle of Ekaria is hereby closed.